almost every industry, they say you make it where you're going on who you know. Good luck convincing me of that 5 years ago. Now, on the eve of my graduation, I can't help but look back. I can't help but realize how much gravity that saying has now. How did I even get here?
So where are we at? What park is this?
This is Zilker Park. This is the main one south of the river in Austin.
So what initially got you out to Austin? Like, just the program, or?
I mean, it was just the program that got me out here, but I mean, I came down for like a day whenever I was filming the documentary, and whenever I got out here, I didn't have time to like do anything, but I saw like 6th Street and stuff like that, so I got to travel the Strip or whatever a bit, and I don't know, it's like, at least where I came from, I was very taken aback by how vibrant the city is. There's just a lot of arts culture. It's very lively. It's very like hustle bustle type of stuff, and I mean, that's everything that I'm used to. Everything that I love about a city is that there's always things to do, and there's always places to go and things to see. And I didn't really get that a lot back home, so it was just like almost a culture shock being here, which is pretty crazy. It's just about enjoying your atmosphere. It's about enjoying your surroundings and taking it all in, and keeping that a piece of you. But it's such an active culture either way that's kind of what people just do.
I love you, human being. I care for you. I want you to be the one.
Oh man. Kind of the last day I get to do all this stuff.
You excited?
Get used to walking these paths, and then just like, this is just like a routine. It becomes a routine, and then one day it's just kind of like gone. I mean, I know it's something everybody goes through at one time or another, but it's just crazy when you're right there in the moment, and then you're not going to be walking this path anymore, really, and you're not going to see the same people and all that stuff, go to the same places, like, you know. Even just something as simple as like my routine is to get coffee at this like convenience store up here every day, and get coffee and oatmeal and then go to class. And it's just like the super simple thing, but it's something that you miss even though it's routine. It's just it became part of the culture that you lived the last 9 months. So pretty crazy. There are a lot of things I choose not to remember. When I was working on my first documentary, I remember hoping that would pull me out of my struggles in Orlando when I lived there. And after that, I remember the hard times working on my GamePro janitor piece, and then having that ultimately fizzle out after 2 years of extraneous work. I remember an unsuccessful crowdfunding campaign for Pixel Poetry, my second movie. And then I remember it turning all around. But why? What was I doing so differently? Turns out, not much at all. It was the people I had met. It was them who pulled me through, introduced me to others, garnered me new opportunities. It eventually led to me meeting Warren Spector. And that led to me applying to this amazing new opportunity. Program he had just created at the University of Texas at Austin to accelerate the careers of the leaders of tomorrow's video game industry. After being miraculously accepted in 9 months of extensive training and overcoming obstacles, so many more lessons learned. On my last day in the program, I sat with him to give me some final advice before graduation. I've always been interested how you got your first job in the industry. Like, coming in, you started at Origin, right? Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, no, actually, I started at Steve Jackson Games.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So how did you get into that? Like,
you know, it was a kind of a crazy story. I was working on my doctorate at the University of Texas and teaching classes here to pay my rent. Mm-hmm. And I got a call from the chairman of the radio TV film department telling me that he was taking my classes away because I'd been, what was he said? I'd had 13 semesters of support from the university, and graduate students were only allowed to have 9. And so I sat there and, what am I going to do now? And I got a call from a friend of mine who had gotten a job at Steve Jackson Games saying they were looking for an editor and game developer. And so I immediately said, yes, I'm interested, because I was a hardcore game nerd at that point, tabletop games and D&D and everything. I didn't even dare consider, making electronic games back then.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I went and interviewed with Steve Jackson, and for some reason, he gave me a job as a minimum wage, editor at Steve Jackson Games. So that was where it really started.
Wow. Compared to now, there's like that whole indie community, and there's that whole like DIY kind of stuff going on. But I've always kind of looked back at the AAA industry with their hiring practices and how that differs from now.
Well, when I got started, when I got into electronic games at Origin, I had a little bit of a track record because I've been working on tabletop games for 6 years and managed game departments for a couple of companies. So I had a little bit of a track record, but it was definitely easier then. It was still nerds making games for nerds, right? Mm-hmm. And we were kind of a repressed minority, and so there just weren't a lot of us out there. There weren't a lot of people who wanted to make games. So the process then was, hey, I really love games. Here are some games I've made. Interview with 3 or 4 people. You got a job, and there was no one with experience back then. So there
was kind of like that club mentality.
Well, it was a shared interest sort of thing. We were all part of the gamers club. I guess you could look at it that way. I could talk a good game about what I thought electronic games should be because I've been playing them for a while, and that was the only qualification you needed. You needed desire, but that was all it took, really. And that and connections. You always have to have connections, even back then.
Yeah. Like, especially whenever I got into the DSJ here, that was pretty important to me to be able to get pointed in that right direction. So,
well, certainly part of the DSGA plan is to help people make connections they can use in the future. I mean, that's been a part of it. A lot of it is learning the ins and outs of leadership and management, because I think the industry does a very bad job of training leaders.
Yeah.
If we've done a little bit to help you understand what the people above you on the ladder do and why they do it, we've been a success. But a lot of it is about making connections with people you'd never even meet if you weren't part of this program.
I would like to ask for your advice for me in the future, and you can be completely honest with me.
There are a few things I would tell you, and I think I have told you.
Yeah, I'm the cipher.
No, you're a little hard to read sometimes.
Yeah.
It's almost like there are 2 of you.
Yeah.
There's the guy I'm talking to now, who's outspoken, engaged. There's that guy, and there's the guy who sits at his terminal, and just sort of stares at a screen. And so I would encourage you to be this guy, in your professional life as well as in your filmmaking life. That's one thing, and it's a lesson I hope you take away from the DSGA.
Yeah.
The other thing is you're a guy with a broad range of interests. Do you want to do character art? Do you want to do design? You gotta. Everybody, not just you. Everybody needs to focus in and say, I'm either going to be a do-it-all indie guy, or I'm going to be the best at thing X. Because if you're not the best, there's someone who's applying and interviewing right after you who is going to be the best. So hone your skills and have a focus.
That's definitely a valuable lesson. Well, I appreciate you passing the knowledge down to me, you and the whole faculty, and I'm looking forward to what's next, and just wanted to thank you. So thank you for this program.
Well, thanks for being a part of it. First year, man.
Beta
1.0. You're going to help us make next year better.
I am really interested to see how next year turns out. I mean, I want to stop by and like see what we've helped you guys accomplish with the feedback.
Door will always be open. Come on back.
The last 9 months been pretty interesting in here. It's kind of like when you come to that inn and you're just like looking around at all the little things, like in the context of the game that we worked on. You see all the stuff we cut, and all the stuff that I remember like thinking, oh, it'd be so cool if this is going to go in the game, and everybody had their own piece of it. And I'm looking at all these things on the walls, stuff that I worked on, like some animals that got cut from the game, and it's like I'm the only one with these other 20 people or so. I'm the only one who's gonna know that, and it's something special that you kind of keep with you. A lot of the stuff that I've done in here non-game wise just devolves down to like personal experiences, the interactions and the things. It's nice having that cohesion, that kind of sense of community. Whenever you're in here with these people, you're in the trenches, you get the good and the bad with it. You have all the times where we're always arguing over some feature or something, arbitrary. It seems arbitrary now in retrospect. You have those bad times, and then you also have the good times. It sounds really atypical to say like, oh, we had the laughter and all that stuff, but it's just all the inside jokes too, stuff that people outside are never going to understand. And I could walk up to anyone in this class right now and say Turkey the Tiger or something like that, and they'll instantly know what I'm talking about. And I wouldn't ever have that with anybody else. So, or Cerberus, that's like another one that everybody here is going to understand. So, even though we're all going our separate ways now, if I ever meet up with them again, that's something we're always going to have. And that's something I really count on to keep me close to these people long after this is all over and done with, which is after today. So, but yeah, it's all over with now. Guess I'll just take it all with me. That certificate was pretty special to me. It was really the first time I had achieved such a thing. 12 years. Better late than never, I guess. And then there was the last get-together. People I'd become so close with throughout the program, all getting ready to move on to their new endeavors. And of course a few industry legends who supported us too. That night seemed to go quicker than most before it. We had shipped a game together. Some of us got job offers from major industry studios. Some of us offers from publishers to make a game, and some of us were ready to go home. I guess the great thing is that we all had something to celebrate, and this last time we would do it all together. That morning after felt a little surreal for me, like a lingering simultaneous feeling of relief and sadness. I had a lot of aspirations for things coming up, things I had put off and wanted to do but hadn't had the time. But I also needed sustainability, and some things never change, unfortunately. Now that everything's kind of over, this is kind of where all the grinding begins again. It's like I have to look for somewhere to apply the skill set, and I have to look for somewhere to apply everything that I learned in the program. I hope it opens up a lot more opportunities, because now I'm just looking at this really long list of companies I'd like to work for, but I also have some classmates who are at studios who might be able to help me in getting a job there, and I have some classmates who have some deals on the table for their startup studios, and I can do work with them. I'm not afraid that I'm not going to get a job. I'm just kind of wondering how long it's going to take. Because this grind is kind of all too familiar. It's the kind of thing you don't want to think about when you're in the program like that. It's the kind of thing that you don't necessarily put it off to the side, but you try not to worry about it. And then when you're actually back in it, you kind of have to worry about it. Depending on how long it takes is really just gonna be me trying to keep myself afloat while I look, and while I do things like upgrade my portfolio, and while I try to get into that studio where I'll spend the next few years and hopefully build a career out of it and be able to move on to other projects and studios a lot more easily. But yeah, I mean, right now it's just totally back in the grind again. The potential is with the people who surround you. Because if you surround yourself with the right people, they will push you. They will challenge you, pull you up when you need a hand, and remind you of what you're capable of. Now, up next, I'm producing a web series that will reflect on professional artists in games as they work towards their own big successes, as I do mine now. It will reflect on the choices they made and who they connected with, and in that process, I myself will connect with new people. But as I venture forward, a new accomplishment behind me, into the wild again, I will relish the small victories, as I always have, and I will relish the next step. This path will be filled with footprints, and this trail will be blazed. Onward.